Now, when it comes to long-term dividend investing, if you happen to be an investor that's looking to invest into different stocks or ETFs that are going to offer substantial dividend growth, it's honestly sort of hard to find something that's going to do so better than SCHD or the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. Now, this is simply because SCHD is known as sort of the ETF that has been growing their dividends significantly over the years. We're talking around 11% on average over the past 10 or so years. Now, this means that if you've purchased SCHD in the past, you're likely getting paid a lot more cash flow than you did even in prior years. It seems like by 2028, by 2029, which is honestly not even all that far away, relatively speaking, SCHD, based off of the previous dividend payouts, is probably most likely going to be paying us over $1 per share per quarter pretty consistently. And what's even crazier is that if we look out around 10 years from now, by 2034, 2035, we're talking almost $1.30, $1.40 per share per quarter. But in this video, I want to go over a brand new ETF that I just added to my portfolio literally today. I bought my first share or two of it. And this dividend growth ETF not only offers substantial dividend growth, just like SCHD, but also grows their dividend even a little bit faster. So if you want to see the new ETF that's now in my portfolio that offers massive dividend growth, I'm talking massive, make sure to stick around, drop a like down below, and let's get right into it. Real quick, for those that haven't already, make sure to go to the first link in my description and grab my new dividend investing ebook, where I share exactly how I went from $0 invested to now earning over $6,000 on a monthly basis and over $1 million invested in the markets. Along with the ebook, you're also going to receive my custom dividend tracker, where you can track your dividend progress on an ongoing basis and reach your dividend investing goals. So make sure to grab yourself a copy of my dividend investing ebook and the new dividend tracker today. It's the first link in my description. Now, the new ETF that I'm talking about, this ETF is officially inside of my portfolio. I'm talking about ticker symbol DIVB, or the iShares Core Dividend ETF. Now, right here on the iShares website, it says why DIVB. It says, number one, invest in US companies that return capital to shareholders through paying dividends and or buying back their stock. Number two, both dividends and stock buybacks are proven drivers of long-term stock returns. And number three, used to seek income and potential growth within a portfolio. Now, the objective says the iShares Core Dividend ETF seeks to track the investment results of an index comprised of US stocks with a history of dividend payments and or share buybacks. Now, just as a side note, I think it's so much fun investing in today's era because there's so many ETFs that offer different objectives and have such fascinating strategies, just like this one. Now, some more key facts about DIVB if you guys are not aware, because if you're anything like me, this ETF might be new to you also. The ETF has just over $500 million in assets under management and has only been trading since around November of 2017. So it's sort of hard to compare to something like SCHD because, of course, SCHD has been trading much longer. But still, since this ETF has been trading for several years, we can probably have a decent idea of how it's been performing historically, which will give us an idea potentially on how it's going to do in the future. Although, of course, historical performance does not indicate future. Now, another thing you guys are probably interested in is what is the expense ratio for DIVB, and it's 0.05%, so it's about as cheap as anything else is to hold on to, so expense ratio is not going to be a burden on this one. Now, as far as holdings go, this is another reason why I actually wanted to grab some shares of this one. Not necessarily saying that these are my favorite holdings across the entire market. I'm talking about the top holdings within this ETF. But because this ETF has over 400 different stocks within it, and some of these holdings I already have exposure to, but some of them I don't, I thought to myself, you know what? I already have over 40, 50 positions in my long-term portfolio. Why not add DIVB and have even more exposure to different corners of the market? Now, some of the top names in DIVB, once again, this is going to be very important if or if not you like these names, and if or if not they're going to match what you're looking for. But names like Cisco, IBM, ACN, Texas Instruments, ExxonMobil, of course, we had JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, we got Chevron, Fidelity, National Information, and Home Depot. Now, I wouldn't really say that any of these names are super groundbreaking, but for the most part, a lot of these names have grown over time and have also paid dividends and raised their dividends over time also. Now, the last note on the holdings is, of course, if you hold other ETFs, other dividend growth style ETFs like this one, you're probably going to have a lot of crossover with holdings. That's something to consider if that's not something you're looking for. Now, to look at the historical performance for DIVB, this is another reason why I was super excited to grab some shares of this one and start a brand new position. This ETF has done very well over time. We're talking 100% as far as price goes, and this is not including dividends over the last several years. Now, also over the last year, this ETF has rocketed. It's up 32+% on the 1 year and 21+% on the year to date. But of course, for me personally, probably also like a lot of you guys watching this video, we want some exposure to growth, but we also want to get paid along the way. So dividend income is going to be very important to us. And dividend income is definitely there when it comes to this one. 2.48% as far as trailing 12-month dividend yield. And dividend growth is definitely there. 4.74% dividend growth rate on the trailing 12-month, which isn't necessarily bad, but not all that great. But on the longer time frame, this ETF has grown their dividend substantially. We're talking 22+% on the last 3 years and 15.95% on the last 5. Now again, this ETF has only been trading for say 7 or so years, so it's going to really be interesting to see what type of dividend income transpires in the years to come, but still so far this ETF has been raising their dividends very quickly, which sort of set off a signal for me personally, and I knew I had to have at least a few shares in my portfolio. So far this ETF looks pretty solid. I think the investment objective is awesome. I like companies that have a history of dividend payments, dividend growth of course, and share buybacks. And I also like the fact that a lot of the holdings within this ETF aren't necessarily super shiny objects, but they're more or less companies that have traded pretty well over time and also offer decent dividends, share buybacks, and some dividend growth historically. But what's also interesting about this ETF is the historical performance. Like for example, a $10,000 investment into DIVB, and this is basically over 7 years, 6.94 years so far. A $10,000 investment would have turned into $23,532, and this is with dividends reinvested along the way, or around 13% plus as far as average annual total return, or over 135% total return. So this ETF for investors that have bought shares of it, reinvested back into the shares over the last 7 or so years, which is not even that long, they have done quite well off this one. Now, even with dividends not being reinvested, this ETF is still average around 12% per year, which say what you want, but that's not bad whatsoever either. Now, interestingly enough, if we were to stack up this ETF next to SCHD, and keep in mind SCHD has been trading longer, but if we were to go over just the time frame, the 6.94 years that DIVB has been trading, DIVB with dividends reinvested actually outperformed SCHD just by a tad. We're talking a total return of 124% for SCHD and around 135+% for DIVB. Now this is one of those things where I don't necessarily think it's really worth getting caught up in who's going to be the winner as far as DIVB, SCHD, DGRO, VYM. All these different high quality dividend growth ETFs, in my opinion at least, are all great options and foundational positions for really any dividend growth portfolio. But it's safe to say and fair to say that over the last 7 or so years, DIVB, because of the performance, has actually outperformed SCHD over that time frame. Now, as far as my future plans for ticker symbol DIVB, am I going to make this a larger position in my portfolio? Am I going to sell off shares of SCHD to get more DIVB because of the performance? Well, I'm not necessarily going to sell off anything for that ETF, but I do think that ETF could be a good foundational position along with many others in my long-term portfolio, which is why I grabbed my first share of DIVB today. And over the next year, I plan on grabbing more of that, more FDVV, more DGRW, and slowly building up this portfolio that will hopefully be able to sustain just about any market conditions that happen in the future, but along with that also grow in price and also grow as far as dividends go over time. So now that we talked about this new dividend ETF that's now inside my portfolio, ticker symbol DIVB, we talked about what this ETF is, how it works, and its performance even stacked up next to SCHD. I lastly, most importantly, want to hear from you guys down below. Is this ETF either in your portfolio as of right now? And if not, is this something that you would personally buy? Let us know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to please drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content like this. Thanks as always for stopping by, and if you are interested in investing, make sure to check out these recent videos I posted right here.